continue with the talk about the discourse, I would like to mention something regarding the question that was asked the last session about happiness or suffering. From what I described, it seems that life is terrible suffering. Well, sometimes I forget I'm talking to lay people. But, I mean, there's some truth in that. Sometimes it's not the mystic of commission, it's the mystic of omission. You get what I mean? How do you translate that? Commission and omission. Commissione. That means when you say something is this, if you don't mention what it is not, sometimes people misunderstand, no? So I say life is suffering. I don't say life, I didn't mention life is happiness. Then people think life, everything is suffering. When I say life is happiness, I didn't say life is suffering. People think everything in life is happiness. And that's what I mean. When I say life is suffering, I may tend to omit the fact of happiness. When I commit to this life is happiness, I may omit the suffering. You get me? That is sometimes that can be a problem, because now I remember the case where a yogi met with a vipassana teacher. It's the first time she had with that vipassana teacher, who is supposed to be quite well known. And I asked her, "How do you like your retreat?" Then she looked at me and said, "He's the saddest man in the world." Più tristesse uomo nel mondo. I said, wow, that's a strong statement. Because this teacher emphasized so much about that vipassana, you must see suffering. Yeah? And that is often the case in more serious practitioners. Yeah? But it may have this kind of adverse effect. There was also another case when I was in Europe. No, not in Europe, I was in Australia. And there was this young couple in that Vipassana center that had some of their pictures there, no? Then he told me, "Look, this is a pictures of our marriage. We were very happy before we knew Vipassana." Of course, he said it like a joke, but I mean, there is also something to it because he said it, you know. So, there is often this misunderstanding when you have the sin of commission and the sin of omission. So, it needs to be a bit more balanced. Now, if I describe, let's say, if anybody who understood Vipassana would be Mahasi himself. He's the one that promoted all this, and he's the grand master. If I look back at that time, when I was there and I see Mahasi around, I think he's simply very happy. He couldn't be bothered about, he's supposed to be head of the whole, he's the institution, no, of the whole thing. And when you're alone by himself, you see him walking around really carefree. And he was just chanting his Burmese, and then he will walk, no. And all the yogis around him will be walking mindfully, right step, left step, really serious. So you see, there's a There's a difference there. And then sometimes he would crack a joke, And all the monks and all those yogis, they were people still very serious, And he would start laughing, ha 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 ha, hee hee ha ha, and everybody would still be very serious. Wow, this is interesting. So, I think there has to be some kind of there has been some kind of misunderstanding with this thing about suffering and happiness. Not that we shouldn't be serious, we should be serious, but being unhappy is another thing, Watching suffering is one thing, but when you watch suffering doesn't mean we have to suffer, We're supposed to watch suffering because we understand suffering, so do you get out of suffering. So the more happy you are through the vipassana practice, that means the more you understand the nature of suffering. Isn't it? Maybe there's one or two words I want to say about this. I wouldn't like to give you too much pep talk about what is happiness and suffering. You are all big grown-ups. But I just want to say it. I can't help it. See, first is that we understand there's happiness and suffering in the world. Okay, but what's wrong with enjoying yourself, having a go wild, but having a fling in the Christmas or Christmas party, have a booze and then get a hangover, something like that. So, and when you come here to meditate, you have to meditate, you have to wash pain, you have to walk and sit, wake up so late in the morning, and then so early in the morning, and then say, who is mad? Are they mad or are we mad? No. So first we understand that happiness is a state of mind. It's a mental state. To understand what is you're having real happiness, you have to watch your mental state. Yeah. Now this comes back to the very basics of our practice. Vipassana. What's the basis of vipassana? The basis of vipassana is reality, understanding of reality. Being aware what reality is. And because of that, at least you must have mindfulness. This is the very basic. When you have all those sensual pleasures, yes, you have happiness. The Buddha also stated that there is happiness. There are different types of happiness. The sensual pleasures, for example, and so on. But we are talking about what the more real kind of happiness, which is more lasting, and which is based on reality. Like the story of the Zen master. The Zen master with a few monks were there, and then outside there was a mad fellow. Ha ha ha, hee hee ha ha, hee 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 ha. Then he told the monks, you see, that madman seems to be so happier. He seems to be happier than us. Who are mad? Is he mad or are we mad? But you look at the state of mind, the mind is a terrible state. It's a mess. You think of the longer term, when he dies in this deluded state, he's probably going to a very woeful state. So, you come back to the state of mind, which is mindfulness, and based on reality. That you're looking at something more, longer, and basic. And in this sense, the human life is a blessing because the human life has more opportunity to practice mindfulness. When I say, according to the Abhidhamma, I don't think animals can get enlightened. Oh, those animal rights people say, I protest. How can you say that? No. Well, I haven't heard a monkey get enlightened before. Even during the Buddha's time. to animals that serves the Buddha and were probably better than many human beings. But talking of the potential of enlightenment and the greater goodness and blessings in existence, the human mind, the basic bhavanga citta, is the potential for greater development. It is no lesser than the Deva realms. No, Deva, they have good karma, they're born in Deva realms. The human mind has, in terms of potential for enlightenment, is not any less than the Deva realms. And the opportunity for the human realm to develop inside realization is better than the Deva realms. Because of you can see more suffering. You can see more suffering in the human realm. Deva's realm is more difficult to see suffering. Because every day is a party, everybody, the men are 18 years old, the ladies are all 16 years old. And every day there's a party. Everybody is so pretty and so handsome, and they go pom chak chak, pom chak chak, pom chak chak for thousands of years. And then when they die, they say, "Oh dear, I haven't done any merits, so down you go." It is a oversimplistic way of putting it, but generally that's what we get an idea from the text. There are some suttas talking about happiness, for example. One of them talk about happiness, the basics of good happiness. One is in terms of confidence. Confidence, that means, happiness, that's what you call the fool's paradise. And there's a confidence that comes because you know where you stand. You know what you are doing and what you have to do, and you're doing what you can. That itself gives you a kind of what you call mental stability, strength in dealing with life. Don't you think so? A person, let's say, he may be sick, but he knows he's doing what he can, or he may be losing his business, but he's doing what he can, and he knows his situation very well, and he will know how to face it. And because of that confidence, his mental stability is better. Which means that this adds another important mental factor here. There is the acceptance. And acceptance comes with reality. And this can be so only when you are really mindful of reality and the situation. No, everything is impermanent. We're going to die anyway, right? See, Antonio? Al fino che cosa succederà? Morte. Is it la morte o il morte? La morte. La vita, la morte. So, but when time comes to die, there's a different story. I heard, I don't know whether it's true or not. Ho sentito questa donna, Elizabeth, the one who studied about death. She wrote a lot about the death, the 5 points of acceptance. What? I heard when she died, she was totally in panic. She was totally upset, And she's a great authority to start on the really research on death and psychology. I mean, I hope it is not true, but obviously the person who told me has some backing behind him. So that's why when you say of theory and practice, when you say theory, yes, even the preacher who was preaching about anatta, etc. in Malaysia, when he started vipassana and he saw anatta, he panicked. The preacher, he quote all this, when he comes to anatta, experience anatta, he started panicking. There's no me. What am I going to do? Then he went home and saw his newly wed wife. Oh goodness, she's anatta. I'm married to an anatta. She started panicking, And so he gave up his practice for a while. He couldn't take it. This is theory. Teoria e pratica. Non lo stesso. So when it comes to death, even more serious. It's getting more serious when you come to death. No. So, recommendation, consiglio. In your room, you put a picture like I do, a skull. Teschio, scheletro. And then every day you offer flowers. Death, death, death. So you have a positive, peaceful veneration of the nature of life, the ultimate nature of life. And you feel very peaceful and happy every time you think of death. There's no guarantee, but I think it would be better than the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Of course, the best is, of course, Vipassana. So, and of course, this is called the joy factor. This joy factor in life is very important. Sometimes in Vipassana, sometimes you forget about the joy factor of life because some people stay in the dukkha jnanas. Knowledges of suffering, the dukkha jnanas for a longer period of time. Then if they don't have enough mindfulness, they don't have enough instructions, they get themselves depressed without knowing. And so the joy factor is very important in this sense. And of course, the final most important thing is Vipassana is to be able to live in the present. Is there past? There's no past. Is there future? There's no future. What's the present? The present is here and now. What me worry? The story of what me worry. You haven't heard of the word? What me worry. Have you heard of the Mad magazine? Many years ago, one of our favorite magazines was the Mad magazine. The funny-looking boy who is quite mad. It's crazy. So he always says there, what me worry. Mad person doesn't worry. But here, it is not in that sense. One is in reality that accepts things as they come and as they go. It doesn't mean they don't do anything about the future. It doesn't mean that they don't do anything about the past. You recognize the past, present, future are all part of the conditioning thing. And he accepts it as it is. And because of that, he's totally detached from everything. And he is at peace with whatever comes and goes. And because he's detached, being in the present moment means he understands what is anicca, dukkha, anatta, which he does not attach to the past, present, or future. He's totally detached from that. In the mind, doesn't mean he doesn't see it, he sees it. And because of this, it's not affected by his mind, is totally free and happy, whatever situation is. And that is Vipassana. Like, I remember again the incident where the Sayadaw Pandita asked the question to a crowd of people, yogis, what is the highest blessing? And people giving all sorts of things. And they never thought of this sutta, Mangala Sutta. Ever heard of Mangala Sutta? Discourse on blessings. It is one of the suttas that children learn by heart when they're young in Buddhist countries, especially Sri Lanka. Asivana jabalanang panditanang jasevana puja ja pujaniyanang eta mangalam uttamang padirupade savaso ja puve jagata punyatata samma paniti ja eta mangalam uttamang. 38 blessings. Starting from the very first, association with the wise, dissociation with the fools, honor those who are honorable. It's the first step of blessings. In other words, happiness. And the last one is Itta disani katawana sappata parajita sappata soting gachanti tante sang mangala muttamanti. Going in all directions, wherever one is. One's mind is undisturbed and peaceful. This is the highest blessing. So you see, it goes back. This is after the realization. No? Somewhere before that, there's the realization of the noble truth. After that, so this is the answer to your. If you have any doubts about happiness in human life. Okay, now we come back to this question. Yes, we are at number 3. What is that one thing, number 4, what is that one thing to be abandoned? When you say one thing, it narrows down to asmi mana, egocentrism. But usually it's translated as ego conceit. Ego, asmi is I am, yo, sono qua. And mana is conceit. If you think of 2, then it is ignorance and craving for existence. This becomes more metaphysical in the consciousness at a more base level. Ego conceit is more apparent. And that means what is very obvious. I mean, it is interesting. I find it interesting in the way it is being presented. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, it simplifies things. 2, it expands a bit clearer. So, now ego, this has always been there's some kind of I find a very, very funny situation in this, because when I study Abhidhamma, look at this says that says that, of course I don't believe everything it says. Of course I due respect to all those Abhidhamma acharyas, but it's not what they say, it's how we relate to it, and especially after all those English translations. Or Italian translation, if you're Italian. Then, because this asmi mana, this very close connection between mana and wrong views. Wrong views is ditthi, mana is conceit. So these 2 are very close. So finally, I ended up with a conclusion. Asmi mana is egocentrism. This wrong views is a fixed idea of a world view. The English has this word, world view. You understand? Their view of the world, the idea of what the world is. Not just the world outside, but also the world inside you. What is the existence of worldview? Wrong view, that means it is not accordance with reality. But view here has a special significance, because as a mental state it refers to a state which strong craving and clinging. Forte tacamento sulla una opinione falso. Strong attachment to a wrong idea. Because it's important, because it guides your whole, what you think of life and what you do in life. No? Isn't it? Correct, my friend? So what you do in life depends on what you think of yourself, correct? But since there's no self, what do you expect to do? Nothing. No, it's not true. Huh? I'm just I'm playing with words. So there's this wrong view. There's egocentrism, that means you take the person, the I concept. I is a concept. The I concept as the central point of all your mental activities of thinking. No? The central focal point of the mental I concept. But what is the I? Then it refers to so many possibility things. And when you attach to that very strongly, then it can become a wrong view. So you have quite the, and the identification process is more involved with egocentrism or wrong view. Involved with both. Both. Yeah. So there is this asmimana, and this asmimana, interesting because the English word is one thing, the actual Buddhist metaphysics psychology is another one. You see, what happens is, in the Buddhist metaphysics, only the arahata is freed from asmimana. But the stream inner is enough to overcome wrong views, miccaditthi. Yeah? This strikes a question in me. Now it has no miccaditthi, then how come the asmimana is there? How can you think of I when you know that the right view of anicca, dukkha, anatta is basically no I? So there's this, I always think about this, something missing there. So I concluded that it is something to do with the mental processes involved. Because there is a sutta, for example, about a monk called Khema. You know, he of course is a great practitioner and so on, Khemaka. And then he has these disciples. Then the disciple says, Khemaka is like that, like that, like that, like that. So he must be an arahant. But Khemaka, when he heard that, he says, no, I'm not an arahant. He says, although I have good understanding to practice the nature of the five aggregates as non-self, I still I'm not an arahant yet. That means it is not so complete. He says that, he gives a nice example. He says that suppose a towel has been used in the toilet, and so he has some bad smell there, you know. And so you take and wash it until it's very clean. But then there's still some bad smell there, sticking to it. So what you do is you put some sandalwood powder and everything, nice smelling perfume, eau de cologne. What perfume you have in Italy? What? Acqua di Alba. I don't know what it is. But when we are Alba, they always say Acqua di Alba. But then nobody goes into the shop, no? Say, why nobody goes to the shop? They says, well, because it actually belongs to the mafia. I don't know whether this is what people tell me. So, so anyway, that's how this. What was the example he gave? Which means that this certain sense, which is actually, I think, it is kind of connected with the process of linking the thought process with the concept of I, yeah, and centralizing it, which is a kind of subtle defilement. It's interesting here. You look at the attainments. Now, Sotarpati and Sakadagami Marga, the first and second path, has no more wrong views, but it's still got craving. But the craving is not like the ordinary people's craving, people drink beer or do all sorts of things. They still got subtle craving, especially the ones written, the Sakadagami. Then we understand that there's still some processes involved with this. And also there's a clinging. But the Anagami has no more sensual pleasures, has no more hatred. That means it's completely detached from all these senses and so on. But this thing is still there because there's clinging there, very subtle. To what? Not to the sense desire that this is mine, this is yours, but to that goes to the second part, craving for existence. No? Craving for existence. Craving for existence, mind you, it's not wrong view. No? Craving for existence does not have to do anything with wrong view. It's just a very primitive force, like the serpent. Martin, Kundalini. Serpent power. I'm just joking, because Czechs, is crazy about Kundalini. When I first went in Europe, I started teaching Czech. There's this craze about Kundalini, The moment they get some joy, they shake the body a bit, say, Kundalini force is working, Kundalini force is working. And people get crazy because they cannot control the Kundalini force when it rises. So I totally disagreed with that. I said people are meditating for so many years in Malaysia and Asia and Burma, they don't have Kundalini forces. Why the Czechs? There must be something. No, because the Czech, it seems, during the communist days, the only way out in the spirituality is yoga. Because the communists put down all religions. But yoga, okay, so they went underground. Then finally the Kundalini came up. Is this so crazy then?
Yeah, but even I got initiation in the Kundalini yoga.
Oh,
yeah.
So do you believe in it now?
No, it was interesting. It was one Indian yogis. She was there, and she put her hand on the head of the people, and they start jumping and shaking. And if she came to me, put the hand, I noticed the tendency to start to shaking as each other. But then I realized I don't need to shake, and I stay. Oh, something is wrong with you. Probably not.
Psychology, is it? When you tell it like that and you believe in it, it becomes like that. Exactly. No? Similarly, like in the Qigong, they say this can make you move and so on. They make me move. I was mindful. What is this? Mindful. I don't move. The most I move is a little bit. And they say, every 5 o'clock, the master will transfer his chi to you. If you stay there and stand like that, and you will shake with his chi. So everybody stand there and shake. I mean, you expect me to believe that? I think it's all brainwashing. So anyway, this is my point of view. I don't want to argue with anybody. So anyway, so coming back to our talk. So the Asmi mana, it's clinging for existence, craving for existence, still there. But this is not craving for existence in the human or deva realms, in the Brahma realms. And the Brahma realms are very subtle, they are like that. Especially Arupa Brahmas, or Upeka, equanimous. Especially the higher Brahmas, they don't smile. I'm exaggerating a bit. Okay, anyway, the Arupa Brahmas don't have the body. How can they smile when they don't have a mouth? But mentally, they can still have joy. No? But generally, they are very stable because of the nature of their bhavanga. And so this asmimana is a very terrible thing. It persists in the asavas, in the affluence, in the intoxicants, in the mind, from the lowest to the highest Brahma realm. And so it's there. Only in the Arahant, it is totally eradicated. Yeah. So, but in terms of, they don't talk about anagamis and all those things. Even for the ordinary person, it is very obvious when the craving and egocentrism become very strong, then it becomes ugly. I used to say, some people, their ego is as big as the universe. Really big, big, big. The Chinese have a word for it, 保水. It means it's so piano finché morte. So bloated up, confia, with pride, with orgullo, so until so huge, and you have to be careful of such people, because especially if the person has power, you hurt his pride, that's the end of you. Especially if he's the king, off with your head, then they have this big, strong volition. Off with your head, and the head goes off. So you have to be careful. But it is ironical that sometimes you see that vipassana practices, they're supposed to be less ego. Actually, sometimes some of them got so big ego. Because I'm a big-time yogi. I'm a big-time meditator. So on. People ask me, why that monk, that nun, supposed to be arahant, supposed to be anagami, supposed to be such a great man, he's got so big ego. Well, who says? You say. I didn't say. He says. Probably, obviously, not enough practice, because vipassana is about anatta, no self. How can that thing come? So no self. But doesn't mean that he doesn't do anything. Usually people who practice have strong willpower. Otherwise they can't practice. But the ego and attachment and so on are two different things. But in the worldly side, can be an asset. Because they are very strong-willed, they are very bossy, they can push people around, and they get things done. Right? Correct? You want to be president of Croatia, Tommy? You've got to have a very strong personality. But vipassana is a different thing. Vipassana, you have to do away with the ego. Personally, you don't do away with mindfulness, you don't do away with clear comprehension, you don't do away with compassion, you don't do away with the good type of joy. You still can do a lot of things without the wrong view of the soul, without the ego. You can, in fact, you function more efficiently. Yeah. So, but as you see, this does not just come alone. All the defilements are interconnected. The craving, anger, delusion are all interconnected. A cycle. There are three evil roots, like the tree of suffering. Three evil roots: craving, anger, delusion. Craving, which is clinging to something that you cannot cling on to, and you should not cling to onto. That if you cling on to, you eventually suffer horribly. Anger, you cannot accept reality, but you have to accept it, because you don't accept it, you suffer. But it's too terrible, a thing to accept, too horrible thing to accept. So we say, no, I cannot accept that. So okay, hold on to it, and you're going to suffer. Reality is such that it is just reality. Reality, like Nibbana is, there's moral, there's immoral, and there's unmoral, right? Moral is kusala, wholesome. Immoral is akusala, craving, anger, delusion. And unmoral is neither kusala, akusala, abhyakata. And Nibbana is abhyakata. It's neither moral nor immoral. So, reality is such that if you hold on to it, cling on to it, refuse it, you don't cling or reject it, you just don't know about it, you're blind to it, it's akusala. But if you're mindful, you can accept reality, you can surrender to reality, you know clearly the nature of reality, and then there can only be happiness. Yeah, it's like the river. You go against the current, you're going to suffer. So you go with the flow, right? But it depends on what type of flow, no? The flow of reality, not the flow of craving. There's another type of river called the river of craving. You flow with the river of craving, then you'll be in trouble. So this is Asmai Mana. So you cannot just deal with just Asmai Mana, but it's a good signal. Just like computer antivirus. Beep 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 beep. So mindfulness will come out. Then, when you go a bit deeper to the roots, craving, anger, delusion, you see, the craving, you see the paticca samuppada, the will of dependent origination. That is three evil roots in the center: craving, anger, delusion. But the main one, the axle, axle, the wheel, the thing that turns the wheel, the axle. What do you call that in Italian? Huh? Asse. Asse. Axle. That turns. That is delusion, moha, and craving. Tanha. And this tanha, two types, for existence and for non-existence. Then the other evil is dosa, aversion. Aversion comes only when there is craving and delusion, and delusion. Without delusion, this anger does not arise. It must have delusion. That means when you are angry, that means there is certainly delusion there. Yeah. Right? When you say you're angry, when somebody is angry, he says, "You're angry." "No, I'm not angry." You refuse to accept the truth that he is angry. Yeah? So what do? what do you say? What's his name? Pietro. When your girlfriend angry, what do you say? You're angry? She becomes more angry. So what do you say?
Why?
No, you look lovely when you're angry. You're so sweet. Then she becomes happy. You're so beautiful even when you're angry. I don't have to teach you that. You should know better. So, in this case, no, when craving comes, anger does not arise. Understand? Craving and anger, they are complementary, but they cannot exist at the same time. No? So the better is, watch anger as anger. No, if you are mindful, it's better to be mindful of anger than to replace it with craving. Because you replace with craving, you are using another poison to overcome one poison. No. Yes, you ate poison, bitter poison, so you eat sweet poison. So you don't taste the bitter poison. But still you die. Although you may die slower, but you die anyway. So when you go into a deeper level, then you come across this. Two things to be abandoned, and this more in the root. Of course, the asmi mana, the ego conceit, is also down there anyway. It comes together with the craving. Only outside is expressed as I am great. No, the Chinese say, heaven is great, earth is great, but I am greater. No. The Chinese Taoist philosophy, heaven, man and earth, the three. So who is greater, heaven, man or earth? Man is greater. That's why he gets into trouble. So well, it's the first step that you see. It's a good start to pick up the craving when it arises. But when it becomes more subtle, this expression of craving as I becomes latent. It's latent. It does not appear, So, for example, a person, likes to dance. Marina Gola, you like to dance? What type of dance you like? Tango? Ballet? So, when you dance, sometimes you dance, you forget yourself, Correct? You're so involved with joy to the world, la 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 la. Yeah. Dance has gone through various evolution. And then by my time there was this type of dance, twist, Let's twist again, as we did last summer. Oh, twist here, twist there, until the back become ache. I twisted my spine. So, and after that they get becoming, I don't know why, becoming crazy. Break dance, that's more dangerous. They go tumble on the head on the floor, round. But amazing, sometimes they're so involved with what they're doing, they forget themselves. So in that sense, there may not be actually any asmin mana for a while. If they think I'm a great dancer, then of course the egocentrism comes. But sometimes when you're happily doing certain things, even with craving, you forget yourself. So forgetting oneself is different from understanding no self. You may forget when you sleep, you forget yourself. But it is not the understanding of non-self. There's no perception of non-self. Although ultimately it is also non-self. Everything is non-self. Whether you know it or not, Non-self is there. Correct, Johnny? A very penny charity is there, no? There's non-self. So, everything is non-self. But that doesn't help anybody if you are not mindful. You must be mindful, and then of course what happens to it, then you're not affected. Because you have insight into non-self. So the idea is the insight, not the non-self itself. So, in the sense that at the moment the egocentrism is not there. No? But the craving can still be there. The delusion can still be there. The person who is just in a haze, what do you call that? Person who is, the Chinese has the word gong gong. Italian, I think it's the word oblio, is it? Oblio. Quite oblivious of things around, just very dull and stupid. And there's pure delusion, no? When there's this pure delusion, the craving is not there, manifested. And because of that, egocentrism is also not there. But delusion is there. Yeah? So the cycle of samsara still goes on. When there's delusion, the paticca samuppada, dependent origin, still goes on. Unwholesome karma is still being created. Then when you come to wholesome, you meditate, you're mindful, you do this, you do that, you do this, mindful here, mindful there, everywhere mindful. Then the craving of existence and delusion, is it there? Anger, is it there? It's not manifested, but it occurs as a latent tendency. Yeah? Because of the latent tendency, it's deeper underneath. It grows. From there it grows again. And so that's where vipassana comes in. Concentration can stop it at the expressive level, or the physical or mental level. But it cannot cut the base. Talia. Pietro, talia tutto. Talia. Pietro, talia. Cut. This is a famous Malaysian word. When somebody gets into problem, we also say cut. No, talia. So that type of cutting is cutting of the latent tendencies, with vipassana insight. The final deep cutting is cutting of called sammucheda pahana, the cutting at the latent level, transcendental radical incision, cut off. Then it goes off. Because the bottom there is these two terrible things. No, even the anagami has cut off the root of anger, but not craving and delusion. So this. Now, of course, even though not at the beginning when you practice, you start cutting, like a big bush, a lot of thorns. How do you get to the root? You cannot get to the root. You have to start slowly snipping the branches. No? Outside first. There's this talia. There's another one. Talia. There's another one. Talia. Slowly. Cut. And finally you have the trunk. And then you go to the root. And you start pulling. Yeah. So, things to be abandoned by first discipline, sila, which are the more obvious, no? Sila, morality, eradicates unwholesome bodily actions. bodily and speech. Kaya kama, vachi kama. Then this concentration eradicates at the mental level, obsessive level. That means as in thoughts. And the person is in jhana. No craving, anger, delusion, or rest. Blissful. Oh, so nice. You don't even have time to think of so nice. You just frozen. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 7 days, 8 days. So you're frozen. The anger, delusion want to attack, cannot attack because you cannot provoke a stone. Can you? You stone down there, and you provoke. Get angry, you're so stupid, he won't move because he cannot be provoked. so in jhana you cannot provoke. But it doesn't, it's also impermanent. So you come out and scold you, you say, you get angry again. so there's a deeper level. Vipassana goes in to cut the latent level, and that's by insight. So, that's number 3. Enough. Number 5. Katame ekadama. Hana bagyo, visesa bagyo. There's a 2, the 5th and the 6th, that leads to downfall and that leads to distinction. No? This is a critical point that you have to watch for, that decides. No? And is going up or going down. No? And this we come to the manasikara. Let's talk on yoniso and ayoniso manasikara. Yoniso manasikara means wise attention, or proper attention, or better, skilled attention. It decides on that it goes to distinction. And the other one is unskilled, improper, unwise attention, it goes down. That's ayoniso manasikara. This is quite a decisive factor on the development of the practice. Okay, we stop here today.